Hey, what's going on, everybody? Leigh Dickey here. Welcome to a brand new episode of Yo Nostalgia, the pop culture history podcast that covers everything you grew up with, from toys, movies, TV, fads, trends, fashion, news, you name it. If it's part of the everyday fabric of our lives and has happened within the last 50 to 60 years, and we all look back on it fondly and still talk about it to this day, I will cover it right here on Yo Nostalgia. Of course, new episodes are released every other Tuesday, so every 2 weeks on my official website, LeighTDickey.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube under Leigh Dickey TV, and wherever podcasts are available. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. Rate us 5 stars and leave us reviews too, if you would, please and thank you. To follow along with the show, follow us on social media at Yo Nostalgia Show. Send your comments, questions, topic requests, and anything else to yonostalgiashow@gmail.com, and I will interact with you that way as well. This week on the show, I want to review a clip from one of my favorite television shows, from one of my favorite sitcoms, Who's the Boss? And that is the clip of Tony Danza telling Judith Light's character, Angela Bower. So Tony Maselli and Angela Bower, those are the two characters, the two main characters on Who's the Boss. So this is a review of the Tony Maselli character telling Angela Bower that he loves her. And that's from the final season of the show in season 8. So now that all the housekeeping is out of the way and you know what we're talking about this week, let's get right to that main event. The review of Tony Maselli telling Angela Bower that he loves her right here on Yo Nostalgia from Who's the Boss season 8. Alright, so before we get started, I know if you guys are watching this, I have a giant puffball on my head, and that's because, well, we haven't really been able to go anywhere the last little while because this whole, lockdown thing. But I hope that with Yo Nostalgia and my other show, the Beats and Speaks podcast, I bring you some sense of joy and entertainment. So on to this week's topic, and that is Tony Maselli telling Angela Bower that he loves her from the season 8 premiere of Who's the Boss from September 28th, 1991. Yes, so Who's the Boss is one of my favorite shows. I grew up watching the show in first run, or at least the last little bit of the show, because I'm only in my early 30s. I'm not as old as the show, and I grew up watching the early episodes in first run and in syndication because it was still on the air when I was born. So, I fell in love with it because it was just one of those things that was constantly on, whether it was reruns, because the show has been on, it ran for 8 seasons and 196 episodes between September of 84 and April of 92. So, I grew up with it, and I love the theme song. One of the main things about Yo Nostalgia that you will find is that I love TV theme songs and film music and, just TV music in general. I love that. The original sort of compositions and orchestrations of whoever is composing the music. In this case, you had the show creators, Marty Cohen and I think Blake Hunter is the other co-creator. They wrote the lyrics, and I think Larry Carlton wrote the music. It's just a great theme song. And little bonus tidbit, the theme song for the show Brand New Life was actually my ringtone for the better part of the last, say, 6, 7, maybe 8 years, until I just recently changed it to the theme song to the 3rd season of In Living Color. But, back to the topic at hand, and that is Tony Danza's character, Tony Maselli, telling Judith Light's character, Angela Bower, that he loves her from the season 8 premiere in September of 91. Now, going down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I saw this again, I was just like, you know what, why don't I cover it on the show? I loved this scene. I love the show because it's funny because Tony Danza's character plays a housekeeper, and Angela Bower is this highly, Judith Light's character, Angela Bower, is this highly successful executive So the roles are flipped. The gender roles are kind of reversed, which I don't think was happening a lot at the time. So that's kind of really quite new, and it's cool to see. I mean, it was cool that they flipped the roles, and the two leads, Judith Light and Tony Danza, did so well with them. Of course, they had a fantastic surrounding cast. You had Catherine Hellman as Mona. You had Alyssa Milano as Tony's daughter, Sam. And you had Danny Pintaro as Jonathan, Angela Bauer's son, or Judith Light's TV son. And, you know, the entire cast did really well. And it was a successful show because to this day, it's still shown in reruns. And it was originally on the air for 8 seasons, as I stated, between September of 1984 and April of 1992. I love the show, and as I stated earlier, the theme song was my ringtone for so many years. That's my favorite TV theme song of all time, until I just recently changed my ringtone to the theme song of In Living Color from season 3. Alright, but this scene is awesome. So, the clip that I saw, again, it's just under 3 minutes, and you see Angela Bauer, Judith Light, and Tony Danza, who plays Tony Maselli, they're in a swan ride in sort of like this tunnel of love. And they're just trying to figure out, like, where their relationship is and what it's doing, where it's going. And it's quite cool to see it. They're just like, okay, what are we doing? Because apparently, I haven't seen the end of season 7. Apparently, in the end of season 7, from what I've read, the Angela Bauer character tells Tony how she feels and kisses him, and then that's the end of season 7, which is like May of 91. So this picks up like right after that, and you know, it's the 8th season premiere, so you're picking it up about 4.5 months later, because the season 7 finale aired on May 7th, 91, and then this season 8 premiere was September 28th, 91. So about 4.5 months had gone by. They picked right back up, and they're just trying to figure out what's actually going to happen. Because the end goal, I think, with a sitcom like this, or with any sitcom when it comes to, like, a male and female lead, you want to get them together eventually. I mean, I remember, I think it was the E! True Hollywood Story of Who's the Boss, where I don't remember who said it. It was either, like, an executive producer or one of the creators, or both, where they said, somebody said that the writers had actually wanted to get the two characters together at the end of the first season. And for a sitcom like this, or any other sitcom with the same premise, where you want to get the two lead characters together, whether they're like male, female, both female, doesn't matter. Whether you want to get them together to have it all happen at the end of the first year, like, you have nothing to go on to the next season. You have nothing to build to. You can't build sort of a successful sitcom juggernaut franchise if you're going to get your two leads together after 1 year. Because what do they do from there? I mean, you'd be lucky if you got a second season if you got your two characters together by the end of season 1. I mean, that's just, in my opinion, and thankfully they didn't do it with Who's the Boss, but in my opinion, that's just dumb if you want to get your two leads together after the end of the first season, because where do you go from there? You can't go anywhere. You're stuck. So the fact that, you know, over 8 years they built this relationship and they built this sort of tension and chemistry, and it worked so well. So to see it finally come to sort of fruition in the 8th season, and sort of see it finally just hit this crescendo and take shape, is super cool. But this clip that I saw, okay, so they're in the Angela Bauer character, Judith Light, and Tony Maselli, Tony Danza, they're in this tunnel of love on a swan. And apparently, Tony had seen a psychic earlier on in the episode, and the psychic told him that she said, I had to kiss you or I risk losing you, but I have to kiss you by midnight tonight. Okay, so it's a psychic thing. Yeah, and Angela Bauer's response was, okay, so it's a psychic thing. Yeah, okay, like, it's sort of like it's an insurance kiss. Yeah, and then Tony just, no, where would you get that idea? And he's just, okay, so it's almost like walking under a ladder. You don't do it. Exactly. And Tony fires back, like, if there's a black cat in the way, you wouldn't just walk right in his path. Oh, yeah, okay, so more insurance kissing. No. And then, Angela fires back with, well, why would you be afraid of losing me? And then, like, almost if right on cue, Tony just, because I love you. And it's perfect. I mean, yes, they filmed it in front of a live studio audience, but even, like, all these years later, 28 years later, I'm like, holy cow, this is, like, it's probably one of the greatest sort of professions of love, if you will, that I've seen on screen in a TV show or sitcom, for that matter. I think it was really well done. And you just, because I love you, and then there's like this, the audience, all you hear is cheering from the audience, because they film it in front of a live crowd, and there's like this pause, and this shock, awe, and pause, and then there's a shot, they cut to a shot of Judith Light, and she just, what did you say? And I think this is the best part of the whole scene, right here. This is the thing that made me laugh so hard. Cuts back to Tony, and he just, well, what did you hear? And, I was busting a gut laughing. I'm trying not to laugh as I recite those words to you now. It was great. I will link the scene or the clip that I saw this in down below for you guys to see it for yourselves. I think it was great. And the fact that she was like, well, what did you say? And then you cut back to Tony, and then he's just like, okay, well, what did you hear? Right? And he just goes, you know what? No. I said it. And I meant it. And I think the reason I didn't say anything before was because I was afraid of losing you and I didn't want to ruin what we had. Which is, I think, what most people go through anyway. Like, say you have feelings for a friend and you don't want to mess things up, but you have feelings for a friend and you want to take it to the next level, but they might not. And it sort of like mirrors real life in a way, because that happens in real life too. Because you're like, do I want to take it to the next step? Should I take it to the next level, to the next step? Is this a good idea? I mean, I've gone through that in my own personal life, but there's a bit of a tidbit for you all, as I'm sure we all have. But it's just like, no, I said I love you and I meant it, and I just didn't want to ruin what we had. But if loving you is going to ruin our friendship, but then I'm willing to ruin it. Cut back to Angela, and she's just, really? You'd ruin our friendship for love? And then he really starts to ham it up here. So it cuts back to Tony, and then you just see this. He just says, in a second, I spit on it. I'd throw it in the garbage. I'd flush it in the toilet. And then, the audience is laughing. And, to be fair, watching that back, I didn't really get a big laugh there, but I understood, okay, they're trying to be funny, and I can see why people would find those lines funny. But as I said earlier, the biggest thing that made me laugh in this clip was, what did you say? What did you hear? Right? And again, I'll link the clip in the description so you guys can go watch it for yourselves. But Tony says, yeah, I'd spit on it, I'd throw it in the garbage, and I'd flush it down the toilet. And the camera cuts back to Angela, and she just, oh, Tony, that's the sweetest thing anyone's ever said to me. And I was just like, okay, like, they're really going for it now. And, they embrace, they kiss, and as they're kissing in this swan boat, Tunnel of Love thing, the carnival starts to shut down, and there's this announcement of carnival is now closing. So they're kissing, they're going after it, and Judith Light, Angela Bauer pulls away and just, Tony, yeah, carnival's closing. We could get locked in here all night. And Tony just looks her dead in the eye and just goes, oh, yeah, we better call for help. And then he gets this sort of like mid-range, like pitch squeak where it's like, help, help, help. And, Angela was, oh, help. And, just Tony again with the help, 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 help. And just, we tried. Oh, well. And then they go back to kissing. They're really getting after it. And you just see the credits start to come up with the directed by executive producer or whatever that was. And then the clip just ends and the audience is applauding. And to be honest with you, I think that is a good way, if you've gotten renewed for one more season with my TV and production background again, this is one of those things that I always look for, like these little nuances in TV from back when I was growing up and the shows that I loved. It's like, okay, so there's your cliffhanger from season 7 where Angela tells Tony how she feels, and then they pick it up the next season, which was like, in this case, 4.5 months later. They're at a carnival, and then calamity ensues. They get trapped in a tunnel of love, and Tony finally just goes, 'cause I love you. And then, everybody, including me, 28 years later, because I still love that scene and that set of dialogue. It was just delivered so well. It was perfect. And, I'm so glad that they got the 8th season and that they were able to wrap things up by the end of that 8th season in April of '92. It was just, I don't know, it was a cool scene, and it was a cool way to premiere and kick off that final year. It was just one of those things that I remember really enjoying when I saw it the first time, and then going back and seeing it again just recently, and then obviously telling you all about it here on this latest episode of Yo Nostalgia. But, I thought it was a good way to open a season. I thought it was a good way to, advance the characters to that final step of, like, sitcom love or sitcom partnership, if you will, or sitcom coupledom, whatever it is. But, there it is. My thoughts and the review of Tony Maselli, Tony Danza, telling Angela Bauer, Judith Light, that he loves her from the Season 8 premiere of Who's the Boss from September 28th, 1991. Of course, I will leave the clip that I am referring to and reviewing in the description so you guys can go watch it for yourselves. But this wraps up another episode of Yo Nostalgia. I have been your host, Leigh Dickey. Please do comment, like, share, and subscribe. Find us on my official website, LeighTDickey.com, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube under Leigh Dickey TV, wherever podcasts are available. Of course, if you are watching this, subscribe on YouTube under Leigh Dickey TV, please, and thank you. Rate us 5 stars. Leave us reviews, too, if you would. Send your comments, questions, and topic requests, and anything else to yonostalgiashow@gmail.com. Follow along on social media at YONOSTALGIASHOW. And that wraps this week's episode up. Thank you all again for watching, listening, and wherever you're finding this, thank you for tuning in this week. We will see you all again in 2 weeks for a brand new episode of Yo Nostalgia. This has been fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. But I've been Leigh Dickey. This has been another episode of Yo Nostalgia. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. All right. For Yo Nostalgia, I'm Leigh Dickey, and I am signing off. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a good one. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.